Hey everyone, I'm Oscar Payne, Creative Lead and Project Manager at Gilded Games, here to give you an update on the progress we've been making with Aether II, while addressing some valid concerns and criticisms we've seen pop up frequently in the past year of development. For this, we've decided to bring back the popular Aermail series, which some may remember as the video updates we used to release to announce content for the cancelled mutation update. This is likely the first of many Aermail videos we produce to make development more transparent going forward. So first things first, quick recap as to what has happened so far with Aether II. We began development on the sequel to the original Aether mod way back in 2012 without a clear goal other than bringing the Aether's content into multiplayer. Our first run of this idea was the alpha version subtitled Genesis of the Void. Eventually, in 2014, we wanted to bring the mod out of alpha into a beta update, which we subtitled Mutation, which was an ambitious but poorly handled content update that added biomes, new mobs, and new NPCs to the mod. Regrettably, this update never panned out and struggled to find its feet and had to be cancelled. Support for Genesis of the Void continued with a few seasonal updates leading to the 1.7.10 version called the Festive Update. During this time, behind the scenes, we were working on a new design outline for the Mutation update, with the intention of having another go at pushing it out. But when 1.8 released, it presented a few problems with porting that meant we had to restart development on a new codebase. This set things back considerably, but presented a good opportunity to start the new mutation design from scratch on this new codebase. After some experimentation with loot design and dungeon generation, this new design outline was unveiled in 2018 as a new version of Aether II, starting with the Highlands update, a large-scale overhaul of a lot of systems and new content, reflecting the design structure of the original Aether mod, with the intention of the Highlands update being a proper sequel to the original mod many requested throughout Aether II's development. The initial response to this announcement was overwhelmingly positive and it reinvigorated a lot of interest in the project, but as many players would likely tell you, Aether II isn't really what was promised in that announcement yet. We've received a lot of feedback that we would like to share today and discuss going forward. While many criticisms of the Aether II builds we've released so far can be summarised with the mod just not being done yet, with missing or unfinished content, there are 4 specific points that often get raised when talking about the Highlands update that we feel are incredibly valid issues that we specifically want to address in updates leading up to the Highlands release version. One main criticism we've seen is our implementation of NPCs. While I fundamentally believe that NPCs are a core part of the Aether's identity, I fully agree that the Aether II characters we put in the mod and their implementation is incredibly lacking and does not fit the game or the mod itself. The final mod will still have NPCs and named characters to talk to, but their implementation is going to go through some heavy reworks to make them feel less forced and more in line with the rest of the mod. I do think we had NPCs added way too early in development, where most of the functions NPCs are being included for weren't and still aren't ready. So in an upcoming update we are likely to be removing NPCs until their visuals and functionality are more fleshed out and fitting to the mod. This point feeds into another criticism, which is that the mod is too focused on story content, and that the mod is aiming to be a sort of game within a game, rather than being an expansion on Minecraft like the original mod. While I do think this is a valid criticism, and fundamentally the wrong direction of the mod, it is something that has been more of an accidental outcome rather than our actual vision for the project. And while most of the issues with this type of content have already been addressed, I believe it is worth discussing what our stance is when it comes to this sort of content for Aether II. For those unaware, Aether II's content is based on extensive world-building work we've done behind the scenes and published parts of alongside artwork detailing the backstory and explanation for elements of the mod's world. World building has always been a core part of our approach to content production, but actual stories are generally not something you'll see in Minecraft mods. We aren't aiming to change that. Past experiments like the new portal block, cinematic intro, and the way NPC dialogue is presented always gave an impression that a strong narrative focus was at the core of Aether II, and while I don't regret these experiments, they are not a good reflection of our plans for including world building in the mod. Aether II has no set story. It is a sandbox mod in a sandbox game, and the joy of that experience is using the systems and procedural design to create your own narrative and play experiences. That said, elements of the world design and quote lore will be present in the mod for players who enjoy it. You will have the option to speak to NPCs outside of their regular functions and find documents around the Aether's world that hint towards its wider world building. But for players that want a strict sandbox experience, all of that content should be avoidable in the final release. Our aim is to create a sequel that feels like it expands upon the ideas of the identity of the original Aether mod. Part of that identity is the link to Minecraft itself. That part of its identity is something we haven't paid close enough attention to in the past, and will focus on with future updates. Another aspect of the mod's content that has gained a lot of attention, that links into this idea of a game within a game, is Aether II's new art style. Now this is an aspect of the mod I am personally heavily involved in, so I appreciate that it is largely my responsibility. The main critique seems to be that our creature model geometry is too complex, and the designs themselves are too dark and realistic. These are two areas we are working to improve, but I expect our end results aren't going to be what people envision when they bring up these problems. We aren't changing the mod's art style. Part of the reason we developed this mod is for it to be a creative outlet and a challenge for our team members, and limiting our art assets to emulate vanilla Minecraft's own is something none of our artists, myself included, would actually enjoy doing. That said, we are making efforts to adapt our art style to closer fit with the game. One issue we have identified is the model complexity being unnecessarily high, which we have already begun to fix. Another issue is the realistic proportions of our mob designs clash heavily with the more cartoony and squat proportions of Minecraft's own mobs, so we are adjusting the models to fit those proportions closer, which should help in making things feel a bit more coherent. We are also making efforts to make the mod's content generally brighter and more full of colour, as a lot of the grey boxed assets we have been using have caused the mod to have a dreary aesthetic that we aren't happy with. The final point I want to address is terrain generation. This is one of the most notable aspects of the mod that has not been up to our standards or the standards of our players, and I want people to know straight away that the current Aether II terrain generation does not reflect what the final mod will be. The current terrain generation consists of incredibly wide, largely flat islands with few structures and very little variation in size, shape and terrain detail. This is mostly because we had to be working on an entirely new, custom Skylands generation that, if finished, would have given us incredibly fine control of generation features and the overall presentation. But unfortunately, development of this new island system has not met our expectations and has prevented further terrain work from going smoothly. So we plan to switch to a much simpler implementation of the terrain generation that should require less technical development, while offering much more pleasing results more similar to Aether I's original terrain, with variation in height, size and shape, as well as the Highlands update's 5 biomes and all the features that come with those. We expect this new terrain generation to be relatively early change going forward, but as with anything, starting features from scratch takes a lot of development time and resources, so other features may be prioritised early on. All of these issues we've seen discussed are crucial to players' enjoyment of the mod and their investment in the project going forward, and they're unlikely to be the final criticisms we encounter in development of Aether II. So we are committed to being quicker and more constructive in responding to and implementing this valuable critique going forward, likely through new Aermail videos and activity on our official Discord server. So now that we've got common criticisms of what we've put out so far out of the way, I'd like to take some time to reintroduce our design specification and development plans for the Aether II's 1.0 version, the Highlands update. I will be going through a quick overview of the content plans and gameplay systems as an introduction to this new update, and further Airmail videos will showcase specific development progress and systems later on. So here's a rundown of our plans for Aether II's release update. For the Highlands update, a big focus of the content outline was bringing things both back to the form factor of the original Aether mod, while expanding on core aspects of the original mod's identity. To this end, the basic structure of Aether II starts off as a survival sandbox experience, with new ores, passive mobs during the day, and hostile mobs at night, offering an alternative survival experience to vanilla Minecraft, building off central mechanics and ideas from the base game. To enter the Aether in the new mod, you construct a portal frame out of quartz, which can be mined from the Nether, and light it with a water bucket. This portal design is based off the concept of the glowstone portal from Aether I, being a bright material found in the Nether, lit through the opposite element of the Nether portal, while being distinctly a new portal and allowing compatibility with Aether I. Once you pass through the quartz portal, you'll be transported to the Aether II's Highlands map, a fully procedurally generated open sandbox. You'll start an area corresponding to the coordinates of your portal in the overworld, similar to how Nether portals work. The Highlands terrain generation will be similar to the original Aether's Skylands generation, but with a new variety of generation features like biomes, caves, and an ocean of air cloud. These new generation features allow for more variety in survival exploration and content, including biome-specific mobs, decorated caves, and much more. Many of these additions shouldn't feel too new to players of vanilla Minecraft, as they are simply modernizations to the Skylands generation to fit better with modern Minecraft content. One new feature that will help your survival and exploration gameplay is the various Traveller's Outposts scattered around the Aether's Highlands. These buildings are safe havens for nomadic adventurers which act as a quick respawn point, similar to setting a respawn point with a bed. It is also a hub for other adventurers in the Aether's world, so you will encounter various characters and utility NPCs who will offer services like fast travel and trading. Outposts will be valuable to you if you want to adventure far out from your respawn point at home, lowering the risk of getting lost and losing significant progress. Once you push through the initial survival experience and build up an arsenal of new tools, weapons, armor, and utilities, you'll begin to encounter new mechanics we've introduced to enrich the loot progression aspect of the mod. The Aether's mobs have unique strengths and weaknesses not found in other mobs, as we have introduced unique damage types for the Aether's weapons. This is an expansion of the original mod's mechanic where overworld tools and weapons will be less effective in the Aether dimension, but with a less intrusive solution. Using the wrong damage type will trigger a slight damage reduction to your attack, while using the correct damage type will trigger bonus damage, similar to a critical hit. Tougher enemies like bosses will have harsher damage reductions, while animals and nighttime monsters will generally be less strict about the damage type usage. We really believe this mechanic has the potential to add much more to the loot progression of the mod, but want it to be as unobtrusive and natural as possible, so we'll be working hard to allow for configurations and compatibility with other mods and content. Another mechanic similar to the damage types is our new status effects, similar to vanilla potion effects. Status effects offer a range of positive and negative attributes that can be enacted on the player or on mobs through various means. What makes our status effects different to vanilla effects is the introduction of build-up and resistances. When you're hit with an attack that carries an effect, you'll see a build-up HUD element and status icon. Now until that bar is full, the effect doesn't trigger and you can use curatives to remove the build-up, but once that bar is full, the effect will trigger. For example, if you get hit by a cockatrice's venom dart attacks too many times, you will trigger a venom effect, which acts similar to vanilla poison, but you aren't defenseless. Specific equipment and loot will offer effect resistances that reduce a percentage of the effect build-up you're inflicted with. This means over multiple accessory slots, you'll be able to equip resistances to a wide variety of general effects to boost your immunities to hazards out in the wild. But for tougher challenges like dungeons, you can use all the available equipment slots to specialise against specific effects found in that dungeon. These two systems are the core changes we're making to how gameplay progression and moment-to-moment gameplay works. As always, we'll be making efforts to allow users and modpack authors to configure and in some cases disable mechanical changes like these to allow for higher compatibility and configurability. You can expect new configs for these mechanics to come up closer to launch, but the intended experience is for players to use these mechanics, as our loot progression and future updates will rely substantially on them. Though we do understand if players wish to keep these mechanics out of their mod packs, opting for an experience that aligns closer with vanilla Minecraft. Outside of the survival experience, the main content of Aether II, similar to Aether I, is dungeons. Equipped with the best craftable equipment and scavenged items, exploring out into the new biomes and across the map, you'll encounter some of the new dungeons we're introducing as part of the Highlands update. Like Aether I, we will have 3 dungeons with unique mobs, loot, and a brand new boss at the end of each one. Progression through these dungeons is linear, with you initially needing a gravitite pickaxe to mine the materials to unlock the first and most common dungeon, the Infected Guardian Tree. The Guardian Tree is a maze of tunnels through the root network of an ancient tree that has been overrun by a sinister fungal infection that warps the roots into dangerous monsters and traps. You must delve into the deepest parts of the roots to destroy the infection at its heart. This dungeon will offer rewards based on the fungal root mobs, as well as equipment used by previous adventurers who have failed in their attempts to rid the tree of its infection. By defeating the dungeon boss, you'll be granted new equipment with higher stats than the gear found outside of the dungeons, giving a clear progression incentive to tackling the dungeons, as well as giving you the means to tackle the next 2 dungeons, which both offer increasing challenges. Once you're heavily into the dungeon progression, you may want to upgrade your traversal capabilities to get around the Aether's islands faster. For that, you're going to want to invest in raising a moa to be your new travel companion. Raising a moa starts at the egg. To start with, you'll need to discover a wild moa nest and steal one of their eggs, which may understandably aggravate the parents. Once you've got your new egg to safety, you can begin incubating it, similar to in Aether I. Now once your mower hatches, how you raise it will determine how strong the mower is when they grow up and how strong they can become through training. The two things you need to consider are how long you leave the baby mower hungry for and what you feed it with. We're very excited to show our plans for mowers, but we'll cover them in more detail closer to release in a separate Aermail video. Now that you've got a new set of wings, you should be able to explore further faster. This should allow you to easily find Aether II's second dungeon, the Primordial Mines. The mines are much rarer and much more dangerous than the Guardian Trees, and require an item found by defeating the Tree Dungeon's boss to open them, locking the mine dungeon behind finishing the Tree Dungeon. In a way, the Tree Dungeon is the new Bronze Dungeon, and the mines are the new Silver Dungeon. The mines themselves have been overrun by a new mysterious type of golem, powered by unique key crystals found only within the mines. You must delve deep into the mines, uncover the mystery of these new powerful golems, and unlock the primordial altar at the centre of the mines. Primordial Mines will also contain multiple ancient and powerful weapons and equipment sets that will boost your arsenal as you approach the end of Highlands' loot progression. After you've completed the first 2 dungeons, you'll begin your journey to the third and final dungeon in the Highlands update, the Bandit King's Hideout. The Bandit King is a ruthless tyrant who leads an army of murderous thieves that you may have already encountered in the Highlands. The Valkyries, the Aether's law enforcement, have put out a call for adventurers to assist them in ridding the Highlands of the bandit threat, and will reward you greatly for taking down the Bandit King himself. The Bandit Dungeon will be a sprawling military camp with a central castle, where the king sits on his throne. You must explore and delve into this dangerous territory to find a way into the Bandit King's throne room and challenge him to a fight to the death. The Bandit Dungeon is the Highlands update's most difficult dungeon and will require the very best equipment and understanding of the damage and effect systems to beat. But once you have bested the Bandit King, whose fight we are keeping relatively secret right now, but will contain some cool surprises that should please long-term fans, you'll be welcomed into the Valkyrie Order as an honorary Valkyrie, and gain access to the Valkyrie Temple, where you can find new NPCs and new challenges. The main content of Highlands post-game is the Valkyrie Arena, a ruthless training ground for the toughest of the Valkyrie Order, where you can challenge remixed enemy encounters and boss fights with your party of adventurers to earn the best loot in the Highlands update, ending with a unique boss fight against one of the Valkyrie's strongest warriors. We hope the arena will offer extensive replayability for players who have mastered the Highlands dungeons while they wait for the next Aether II update, Ancient Vaults, which you'll be able to access through the Valkyrie Temple when it releases. We also plan to offer summonable world bosses that pose an extra challenge for parties wanting to fight unique monsters out in the world. We have not fully designed our world bosses just yet, but you can expect them to be constructed through rare materials found through exploration of the Highlands map. Now, if Aether II's release is successful and well received, we do have tentative plans for expansion content. The first update that we will do after Aether II's Highlands update is the Ancient Vaults Grand Dungeon, but even beyond that, if people really want more content, we do have new ideas that we will probably detail in a later Aermail. We're very excited to see Aether II meet its release version with the Highlands update, but understandably this update may still be quite a way off. We're a very small team working in our spare time, and are still building up many core systems for the mod, and are beginning the process of porting our projects to 1.16 to prepare for new content. Because of this, we're also opening up applications for new developers. If you're interested in contributing to development and have experience in any of these areas, please get in contact with us either via my email at hire@gildedgames.com or via our Discord server. Alternatively, if you want to make one-time contributions to the project's development without joining our team, our project repositories are open source on GitHub, and we are working on making our pending tasks more publicly available for contributors to work on if they choose to. The Aether has always been a collaboration, and we want to open up this project to more talented people as we make our way towards our release update. Okay, that about does it for this installment of Aermail. We plan on producing more of these videos in the future, deep diving into specific parts of the Highlands update and responding to community feedback. In the meantime though, you can get regular updates of development for both Aether 1 and Aether 2 on our Discord server. For now though, this has been Oscar Payne, Creative Lead and Project Manager at GUI Games, and I'll see you next time.